So let's move on to porn stars and the concept. You were in a cab in Las Vegas and thought you'd like to stay or come back more often. What happened?
Basically, I was there before the hangover, but we on a bachelor party, having a little bit too much fun, and decided we'd have to come up with a concept to come back there, and literally drove by a pawn shop and serendipitously thought that would be fun. Not the pawn shop, but from that drunken moment, went back and actually got to work and spoke with a woman who happened to be my sister, who is my sister-in-law, who was doing casting for us, and charged her with finding the best family-run pawn shop in Las Vegas. And she came running into my office, like so excited, said, I have it. And she'd actually gotten the pawn guys some clips of them off YouTube and Skype and Facebook and all these social networking devices and websites are now tools for casting. So I watched the guys and I was like, wow, they are awesome. And so from that point, I asked her to call. I think the first call went pretty well, but they'd been down this road a few times actually. That's another quick lesson I've learned, that no idea seems to be original. Every idea has been tried a bunch, and that's where it comes down to the cast and the execution. I've met producers since then who are much more established than we were, and they actually met the Harrisons, the stars, and tried something with them. So we were very fortunate to get out there at the right time with the economy and tap into these guys and their knowledge of the stuff, and put together a short sizzle reel that we shot over a weekend. We only highlighted the 3 main characters on the tape. We went in and set up a meeting with 2 of our favorite.
Could we take a break now and have a look at the sizzle tape?
Oh, sure.
How much did that cost you?
Probably, I would say 15 to 20 grand probably for all the time and flying people out there and editing and stuff like that.
And how long did it take?
A couple weeks.
And Rob, when you saw the tape, what was your response?
You can tell the characters pop. I thought Rick was great, and I thought Corey was a little bit of a screw up, but that makes for great television. And again, it was we had the reconnaissance that people were looking in the space.
So tell you.
I'm sorry, and I don't know, was History our first?
Yeah.
Call, was it? I forgot. Yeah. We talked we met with a couple other people, but History walked in, and it was pretty much right away that they knew they wanted to do it.
So let's go back to the reconnaissance. What had you heard, and how did you guide Brent and Leftfield with respect to this
I can't take a lot of credit on this, but my job is to be the liaison between the networks and the production companies. So to find out what the networks are looking for, what spaces they want to be in, and there's another executive at History, Julian Hobbs, and we were just having a general conversation as I'm wont to do, and it was, okay, what are the new spaces? And at this point, History was just coming out of being mostly a military Nazi, 50-plus audience, and the head of programming at
their audience was beyond Nazis, but they were
highlighting what they were looking for.
There was actually an uptick when Hitler was on the channel.
Yeah. Sorry, poorly said. But even the head of programming at History was saying that we have a dilemma because we have our core audience is the 50-plus male who typically likes to watch military and World War II programming, but we're trying to find other shows to put on the air, and yet when we put new shows on, I use this again, their bullshit meter comes up and they're like, we're not watching this. So they had a real challenge to find out how to make the audience younger with programming that wasn't going to alienate that older audience, because they knew they had to keep it in place. So, to me, what I think what's great about this show is that you can organically insert history into the show without beating people over the head. It's just natural to the way the show works. It's organic, and that's what History's on. That's my take on it, but
the inside History view at the time is History does a lot of internal development. And we had been very aware, as any American would have been in, 2008, 2009, that the economy was in a crapper. And we were brainstorming ideas, and we were like, you know, where should we be looking? What is the way that we can capture this mood? And Nancy Dubuque, who is a genius, said, like, look, I think we should be looking in a pawn shop. And so, you know, one of the jobs of folks like me is that we leverage connections with people like Rob, and so we put out an APB, not for pawn shops, but we knew that we wanted to find some kind of family business that reflected the state of the economy. And Julian Hobbs, my colleague, reached out to Rob. They brought in a tape. The thing that Rob alluded to, which I thought was so great, is that immediately you saw the characters. You knew that they were great, but what you immediately saw was that Rick Harrison was smart, and that he was going to be able to sell information in a way that was entertaining, and that the addition of information was both wholly authentic and organic to him, and it would elevate the show away from the seedy side of the pawn shop and into something that truly could become family friendly. And so I thought that was what the great direction was.
Yeah, and I think it was just a good collaboration. Like the tape that you guys just saw isn't really what the show is. We were shooting there at night. At night has a very different element. We were on a very tight time constraint, so we shot with essentially the first couple things that walked through the door, which was a snowboard and a guitar. But as history pointed us, they wanted to get behind the history of the actual items, and that the items would essentially be the stars of the show. And when we were able to go out there and shoot, you know, essentially nonstop for 2.5 years now, we're able to really cherry pick the items that have historical value and highlight those. And I think that was the real the branding of the show for history that they really came up with. A couple of the guys were very big fans of Antiques Roadshow, which to be honest I had not seen at the time, but they loved the idea of bringing in people to and hearing the evaluation and the history of these items, and so that really became the backbone of the show and why I think it could work on the History Channel. And like Rob said, a lot of people are like, oh, why is this on the History Channel? But there is a ton of organic, fun takeaway information. I always like to compare it to that really fun history professor in college who actually made the anecdotes that you actually remembered, as opposed to just a talking head that was fairly boring, that you forgot everything. So,
and I have to say, I mean, two things. One is that if you look at, Brent referred to the fact that the Pawn Stars, the shop had been featured in 2 prior shows. One was a very successful production company that tried it, and the second was, I think, a project that had been in development at HBO. And if you go back and look at, the Pawn Shop was featured on a Comedy Central series called Insomniac, and if you look at that footage, it's shot, the shop looks very dark, the characters don't pop, and so I think what Brent was smart about doing was he went back in there and he positioned it, and the footage was done in such a way that the characters look different. It looks like a brighter location, and it just makes the project look better. Secondly, I think going back to how we pitched the project, I'm not going to sit here and say that we were so smart about the way we did this. I think we were smart. Brent did a great reel. We had the reconnaissance, but I think a lot of it was fortuitous. We walked into History Channel, and the day before, Nancy Dubuque had come back and said, we need to go find a pawn shop. And we walked in the next day with the tape, and they said, bam, let's go. That's really how it happened. It was, and it wasn't for lack of a lot of hard work, but I think also the timing was helped us out as well. We pitched it in February, and I think the pilot was done in a month and a half.
It was finished by April.
And it was on the air, and then they ordered the series right away, and we were on the air by June, I think it was. So extremely quick turnaround.